Welcome back to the Gaming Grounds channel. It's your boy Action Jack, man. I wanted to come and do yet another video in regards to this whole Switch OLED situation, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Rules to Review was the channel that I watched just recently with a great video. It's about 23 minutes long, and he had some great ideas, some great concepts, and what he felt like Nintendo was actually going to do and what they were going to try to do and the reasoning behind that. But instead of going on Twitter and going into character restrictions and things of that nature, I wanted to do a video myself and kind of see, what my thoughts would be and if it makes sense and put it out there to the masses and see if I can get some feedback. So one of the main things that I've centered around is the main, I guess you could say, statement coming from Nintendo specifying that they wanted to try to get the Switch to the 10-year life cycle, whether it be the entire family of the Switch, of the OG Switch or the revision 2 Switch and the Switch Lite, along with the OLED Switch that just got announced that's going to come out October 8th, or that could just mean some of them or what have you. Just all depends on what you think and how you feel. But there's also another statement that I specifically remember when it came down to Nintendo wanting to kind of be the Disney of the gaming atmosphere, and a lot of people giving them comparisons in the form of Apple and how they do their releases, where we get an iPhone every single year on top of each other, and whether it might be a slight change here or a camera change there, the main changes tend to come in the software. So after watching his video and going past my thoughts a little bit and trying to see what I could possibly think of what Nintendo would do, would they entertain the idea of what people were speaking of a Switch Pro, and would they just jump straight into the 10th generation, because I feel like they already in the ninth with the Switch? What would they possibly do? Okay, so this is my thought process. I believe Nintendo will have the Switch go 10 years, but in a special way. And this is what I mean. If we all look back at the PS2 went about 9 to 10 years, right? But that doesn't mean we didn't have a Sony console out that was the successor of that console. So I feel like with the Switch Pro, Switch 2, or if they just name it something altogether different, then I feel like that will be out in 2023. And then the Switch family will still coexist with this particular console that they're going to put out there. Now, whether this successor is going to be, home console that's very stationary, are they going to continue the whole hybrid process, or, anything else, that's to be seen. To me, after, speaking back and forth on Twitter with different people and, talking to Shadow Fox and Jay and Andre and everybody else, it just seems like for something this size, along with this wattage of power, it doesn't make sense to try to compact that much in such a small form factor, where you still have to worry about heat, airflow, battery, the whole 9 yards. And then, as we see with the Joy-Con, you make something small enough, it's more liable to break and it's not as sustainable as something bigger like your average controller size. So for me, I feel like they're not going to continue the whole Switch thing, not to mention the whole nonsense with the whole Wii to Wii U, to where people claim to be confused, which was, to me, a load of crap. But the marketing in itself to the casual crowd, I see where it could be confusing, because they're not in the know like most of us that's on Twitter that go back and forth about this stuff, right? So I feel like they want to escape that, to where we don't do the Switch 2 situation and get people confused of if it's just an upgrade, if this is the successor, or if it's just an accessory, what have you, right? So when we look at what they could possibly do and going forward, I feel like they will have a stationary console, or if not, just release a dock that has guts inside of it, like I mentioned in my last video. So they can go about this a multitude of ways, but I do feel like they will remain with the cartridge factor, so that way it is crossplay and there is backwards compatibility, to where we're seeing now with Xbox and PlayStation with the PS4. So you don't alienate the Switch family, to where if people want to stay there and they don't want to upgrade, they still don't have to, but understand that there will be exclusives eventually in the lifespan of the new successor console. So let's say the successor drops in 2023. That in itself would put the Switch around, what, 5-6 years at that point, because it came out 17. So what, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 6 years, right? So you got 6 years to where by the time the successor hits its third or fourth or fifth year in that time frame, the Switch in a way can be phasing out, if not already, to where it didn't make it to the full 10. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of still lingering around and still kind of gets games slid to it, kind of the way the Wii does with the whole Just Dance series, or things like that. To kind of keep it alive and understand that, hey, this bump happens. Your game in a way can still be played on this old console, but at the same time, for those of you that want the boost, whether it's 2K, 4K, 8K, whatever K, and you have a consistent frame rate and your games run better or look better, however you see fit, I think that'll be a better look. And like I said, I could be completely wrong about this, but this was just something that kind of kicked in my head the moment that Rob was saying the things that he said on his video. So yes, it would be asinine for Nintendo to try to have the OG Switch, whether it's the revision, the Lite, or even this OLED model, which in a way they can kind of slip and slide through and say, oh, well, the OLED came out in 2021. So while it extended it, we refreshed it. So in a way, it wasn't too old. But if you look at the 10-year marker, that'd be 2027. And if we do get something by 2023, we're looking at a 4-year cutoff. I mean, a 4-year lifespan of the successor, with the OG being cut off at that 27, if not the 26 time frame. But yeah, that was my thought process on the whole thing. Thanks to Rob for a great video. So I'll definitely try to put his video down in the description, so that way you guys can go to it. If not, just come see me on Twitter, and I've already retweeted it. So it's a great video. And then also Player Essence made a great video as well too, in regards to giving the breakdown of the Switch and the Vita comparisons, kind of like what I was talking about yesterday. But he gives hard and actual facts as far as the price breakdown and how crazy it sounds when people try to make those comparisons. But nonetheless, tell me what you think as far as, do they mean the family lasting alongside the successor, so it does eventually get to the 10-year marker like the PS2 did with the PS3? Or, do they just shut it down a little bit earlier, or do they just continue on with this whole Switch situation and do a mid-fresh upgrade akin to what Xbox and Sony did? And then, not to mention, like I said, when you talk about the iPhones, we get one every year, and you don't really see a different body style until like maybe 4 or 5 releases down the line. They tend to keep things the same. They might make little subtle changes here and there, but mainly the big changes come within the software, which get supported across the older hardware. So if we see a upgrade within the software, I got a feeling we're gonna see the same thing we did with the Series X, to where everybody on the Xbox One sees the same software we see. It just runs better on the Series X. So there's a lot of things you can look towards in the form of Apple, Microsoft, Disney, what have you, or even the past of Nintendo. There's so many things you can look at to try to get an understanding or idea of where Nintendo may go next. But I would love to hear you guys' opinion. But that's been my time. I thank you guys for giving me your attention and for liking and watching the video. I'm your boy Action Jack. Peace.